everyone for coming. I'm Devi and I'm Future Books writer. So basically a little bit about Future Books. We are a startup business that looks after other businesses in Hong Kong and in Singapore. And so we offer affordable business solutions to startups, entrepreneurs like you who have big ambitions. Well, basically today's topic is within the field of compliance, and it's about choosing a company secretary. Hi, hello. And it's about choosing a company secretary. It's about choosing a company secretary, and I am aware that a lot of you here don't really know the importance of a company secretary. So we have a really knowledgeable speaker today with us who will walk you through it. And if you want to, you can just log on to futurebooks.asia to ask us questions and to read about articles that have been written about it. Or you can follow us on Twitter. That would be great, so you know about the updates and the future events that's coming up. So we have our chartered secretary here today, Kirti, and she'll walk you through the importance of a company secretary and how to select them. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and just interrupt her and just shoot questions, because it should be an interactive session. And if you're not comfortable with it, you can always ask the questions after the session ends. So thank you so much for coming.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for taking your time off and making yourself available for this presentation. So I think I'll just jump into the topic. So I'll be talking about how a company secretary would actually play a role in the company, because I understand that it's difficult when it's a startup, you try to invest into the secretarial bit of the work, and not everyone is quite familiar what exactly the secretarial role is all about. So I will try to help you get an idea about what the secretary does, and we'll also talk about some scenarios in the coming slides. So just to give you an intro about what the company secretary will do, I will have these couple of points that I would like to cover. First one being the role of a company secretary, who can act as a company secretary, what makes a good company secretary tick, important events each company needs to comply with annually, and filing changes on the ACTA website. To begin with, we have the role of a company secretary. What happens is when the company is a very small company, say for example you have just one director and one shareholder, there is a requirement by the Companies Act which says that the same person cannot act as the secretary of the company. You will need to appoint another person who is supposed to be acting as secretary. Say for example we have the director named as George, shareholder is also George, but the company profile cannot have the secretary named as George. He has to appoint, say, Susan to be the secretary of the company. So this is the mandatory requirement for a very small company. And how the company secretary would help when the company is growing is when you have a lot of directors, and the directors are spread all across the world, and you need certain decisions to be made for and on behalf of the company. You need to ensure that we have all the directors in place. So a company secretary would be the link between the directors and the shareholders, because there are certain decisions that need approval from the shareholders before the board can decide to go ahead with it. Just to give you an idea, when the company has decided to increase the capital of the company, say you have an investor, first the directors will have to ensure that they have taken the consent from the existing shareholders. So when you have a lot of shareholders, say you have around 10 shareholders and you have 6 directors over here. So how would it be possible for this decision to be implemented within the given time frame? That is when the company secretary will play the role of helping to be the link between the directors and the shareholders. So now we move on to who can act as a company secretary. Now, what we understand over here, what I'm talking about, these 3 items will be only that is defined as per the Companies Act, that is defined by the law for very small private companies. They do this, just to begin with, we have a secretary who has to be an ordinary resident of Singapore. when I say ordinary resident of Singapore, that person must have a local resident address in Singapore. He should be residing in Singapore. He cannot be a foreign person or a foreign individual acting as a secretary of the company. And it is also the duty of the directors who are going to appoint a secretary to ensure that the person who is going to be appointed has good knowledge and experience as a secretary. This, yeah.
So ordinary resident, it doesn't mean that the person has to be a PR or Singaporean national.
No. That means to say even, say for example, you have a foreign national who is on ED. That person can also act as a secretary of the company, provided again that he meets the criteria of knowledge and experience. And there are cases where you also have dependent pass holders who have their necessary skills and expertise, and they can act as the secretaries of the company, provided they have the letter of consent, again issued by the company who is employing the services as a company.
I don't quite understand the last letter of consent by.
Okay, say for example, I am the company, I am the sole director, the sole shareholder. I need to appoint another secretary. Now I have a friend who is the chartered secretary by profession, but she's on dependent pass. She's not an employment pass holder. So now I have a company and I want her to act as a secretary in my company. I have to ensure that a letter of consent is obtained from MOM. Yes, a letter of consent from Ministry of Manpower, so that she can act as a secretary in my company.
So if there are two shareholders and two directors,
yes,
one of them can act as a secretary.
Yes. But at all given point in time, we just have to know that the secretary should be able to fulfill their knowledge or their role as a secretary. I'm sorry?
What are the general criteria that the Ministry of whoever is?
No, actually what happens is there is a very specific requirement for the qualifications of a chartered secretary or a company secretary, specifically mentioned for a public and public listed companies. So over here, since we're only talking about small private and private limited companies, they do not emphasize on any specific qualifications. So since we're only dealing with this, I'm just leaving it at experience and knowledge that the person at least has to deal with the role of the company secretary.
But ACRA, which is the government body that regulates this, has left it vaguely defined.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. That's right. They just leave it to be a person who, they just concentrate on this particular aspect of knowledge and experience that the company secretary should possess to act as a secretary for a private and an exempt private company. Now I'll just go to this slide. What makes a good company secretary tick? How would you know which secretary to go and choose? To begin with, I think when you're starting up a company, when you come across the word secretary, we have this image of someone, someone sitting at the reception, someone, filing your nails, and someone who's always into admin work. I mean, this is at least the image that is being portrayed in, movies and in books and in comics and any of those items. But a company secretary will not be reception. A company secretary would be more of a technical person, having specialized knowledge with reference to the compliance requirements for the company. They will be organized with reference to ensuring that all the meetings are in place and how to help run the business smoothly with getting the approvals from the directors and shareholders. And they will be progressive and solution oriented. Because I do understand that when the company is just startup and when you're trying to grow, there will be a lot of structural changes that the company will need. Say for example, you have a new investor, you have a new director who wants to come in, and you have an existing director who wants to go out, then how do you go about it? So a company secretary will be able to help give you the best solution for all of these things. So I was just talking about how the company secretary would be able to deal with the different changes that the new setup or the new startup company would have. You have an investor coming in and you might have an audit. So say for example, every event that is going to be happening in the company will have certain implications, and for that the company secretary would be able to highlight to you in advance. If you have a company as an investor investing into your funds, investing into the company, there might be certain regulations that needs to be followed. So for all of these things, you will have the company secretary who would be able to guide you on that. One of the important things that a company secretary does would be to ensure that we have the important dates in place. The reason being, they have to be planned in advance so that the company secretary would be able to tell you that you meet your deadlines as and when they happen. If you do miss the deadlines, then you have their other implications. So just to begin with, we have something like establishing a financial year end. This is for the newly startup companies. So we usually try to ensure that it is a 12-month period so that you can also take the benefits of tax for the newly set up company. So once we establish this financial year end, we can again determine the best time or the earliest time by which the management accounts can be prepared. By management accounts, I'm referring to the first draft of at least the balance sheet and P&L account of the company based on the accounting records for the company during the year. Then we have the estimated chargeable income, the annual general meeting, and the tax filing. Once the important dates are set, we have something like, we will have a template looking like this, which talks about when the management accounts are to be done. Management accounts are ideally prepared, say 1 month from the end of the financial year end. We have the ECI filings, which needs to be done by 3 months from the end of the financial year end. We have the tax installment, which usually happens by the end of 4 months from the end of the financial year end. AGM, that is your annual general meeting. This is where the compliance, the corporate secretary would be able to highlight to you that this particular general meeting needs to be held 6 months from the end of the financial year end. And your tax filings will happen in the following November of the financial year end. Do you have any questions?
So those are the rules for Singapore small corporations?
Yes.
I think one thing that's worth speaking about is how Singapore allows different financial year. So there's no one set month which is the financial year, which is different from some jurisdictions where it's a March or a June.
Yes, because again it depends upon when the company is incorporated, and it again depends upon what the company decides to have its financial year end. It could be beyond a period of 12 months. But the only reason why we insist on a 12-month period is so that you can enjoy your tax benefits. Because there are certain tax benefits that the company enjoys as long as the financial period is less than 365 days. That's nothing but 12-month period.
So all these dates change based on when the company's year end is.
Yes. And I would also like to highlight, say for example, the company has decided my first year end is going to be March. And I then decide I'm collaborating with another investor, but the investor's financial year ending is say June. So is it possible for me to change my financial year ending to June? Yes. So as a company secretary, we would be able to advise you what are the documents that needs to be prepared, what are the filings that needs to be done to effect this change in the financial year end. And based on the change in the financial year ending, the related important dates like the management accounts, ECI, tax will also change. So we will keep you updated as and when there's any significant change.
So the previous slide, the AGM at the end of June, so there they will have to approve the financial statements?
Yes. Because what happens is, since you've already got it up, I'll just let you know, during the annual general meeting, first and foremost, the general meeting is a meeting of shareholders And because shareholders are the ones who invested money into the company, they have every right to know what is the financial standing of the company. This financial standing of the company, you can only know with your reports, your financial reports. So the annual general meeting is a meeting of shareholders where this report is given and distributed to the shareholders, letting them know this is the status, financial standing of the company, this is the profit, or this is the, this is the loss. So this is what we promise. So this entire set of the financial report is what is circulated during this annual general meeting. So I would be talking more about the general meeting in the coming slides. So is it okay if I can move on? Okay, now we have say for example, we have these situations where the company's AGM is due by 31st August and we have corporate shareholder introduced in Jan. What significance does all of these scenarios have for a company secretary? And for example, for a company, when you have all of these events, I'm talking about corporate shareholder, director and shareholder who died in April. So we will have to ensure at the time of filing the annual return, that is the most important document for the company with reference to ACRA. Because ACRA has a way of ensuring that this particular document, that annual return has been filed. When I'm talking about annual return, it's nothing but a document which states who are the current shareholders, directors, what is their current paid up capital, and all of these important items, what are important organization structural information will be given at the time of filing the annual return. And this happens only once the AGM is done. Okay, so when we talk about the secretaries being progressive, we have at least made an effort to try and see if the documents will be accepted if it is being digitally signed. Because right now we understand that all the documents have to be signed by hand in original and on the documents, but obviously there will be certain restrictions on all the documents that cannot be digitally signed. But we are trying to see and how well it is accepted, the digitally signed documents. So these are the couple of applications like the Hello Sign, and which will help the electronic documents to be electronically signed. Before I go into the scenarios, let me just brief you up with a couple of definitions or the jargons that I will be using during this presentation. I think I will be using a lot of this minutes and resolutions and provisions. It sounds very familiar, right? It sounds very monotonous and boring. But then, just to give you an idea, how would I define provisions? Provisions would be the legal statements or the legal texts that has been quoted in the relevant law. For example, in Singapore, we have the Singapore Companies Act. And every company will have to abide by the Singapore Companies Act and the legal requirements indicated as provisions in this Companies Act. So now when what happens is, I will be needing this provisions when I am referring to something in the resolution. What is the resolution? When the directors of the company decide on implementing certain events in the company. Example, appointment of director. Two directors decide to include another person as a director in the company. How do I document it? How do I legalize this particular decision by the existing directors? By way of resolution. Now this resolution is important because I can use this particular resolution as an extract and show it to authorities saying that yes, this person has been appointed based on this decision. So this is what the resolution is all about. What about minutes? Minutes is when you have a physical meeting. Like right now we have a physical meeting over here. We have 20-30 of us and I'm the presenter. Now we can minute this entire meeting. When I say minute, it's just documenting the proceedings of that particular physical meeting. So we have minutes, we have resolutions, we have provision. So minutes will also include these resolutions. So I know I'm sorry I'm getting very technical, but it would be helpful in the coming slides. Okay? I was just talking about AGM. and we have EGM as well. So when I'm talking about general meeting, it only refers to the meeting of shareholders. And annual general meeting, like the name indicates, it is supposed to be held once every calendar year. And the items that are usually discussed in this AGM would be adoption of the accounts, because the shareholders decide and they take note of the financial standing of the company. Any dividends, final dividends, if the directors say that yes, we have profits, we would like to declare dividends, shareholders can say yes, please give us the dividends. Then we have auditors. If there are auditors in the company, they will be reappointed. So this happens, these are a couple of regular items that needs to be taken care of in the general meeting. And we also have reappointment of directors. Because I think the existing, unless and until you have just the sole director and sole shareholder, if you have two directors, they are required to be re-elected at every annual general meeting. And EGM. EGM would stand for an extraordinary general meeting. Like I mentioned before, there are certain decisions that require the shareholders' consent or the shareholders' approval before you go ahead and implement any change. So all this happens in this EGM. Of preemptive rights, the allotment of shares, the new directors, appointment of the audit firm that we were just speaking about, and after all this is done, ensure that the filing is being done with that. Yes, it has to be done within 30 days from the date of, no, from the date on which the decision has been made that the allotment of shares is going to happen. And one important thing, since you've already highlighted, sir, is that whenever there is an allotment of shares that needs to be effected with ACRA, we have to ensure that there is a proof of that investment into the bank account. Now, we have just spoken about a 10,000 investment. How do I see that the investment has come into the company's accounts? I can use a company's bank statement. I can use a company's bank deposit slip saying that yes, this 10,000 is in the company's books. Only then the company secretary will be convinced that yes, the funds are in, everything is in place, and then I file the return with ACRA. Yeah?
So what if I get like a grant and there's no change in like the allotment of shares? So like you have 50-50 with two directors, and then you get like X number, like for example like a government grant.
Yes.
So there's like $10,000 in you, but there's no change. Do you need to like record that somewhere in like the MMA or?
You don't have to do that. See, because since you're already mentioning about the grant and you want to document it in some place, we can always pass it as a resolution. It need not be filed anywhere because there's no change per se to the existing share capital. It will be, I think, it will be used only as a grant, which will be used for that particular purpose, right? Anything else? So anything?
A resolution is a piece of paper, or it can be online.
Preferably on a piece of paper, because what happens is, as part of the secretarial work, it is the duty of the secretary to ensure that all the decisions are documented. So if you have a document, even if it is, like I mentioned, it's electronic mode of ensuring that the resolutions are drafted correctly. So email correspondences will not be treated as resolutions or minutes. So once you have this written consent or written documents, ensure that it is drafted, redrafted as resolutions and put in place as part of the secretarial records.
And yet, would it be valid especially for simple resolutions if they are presented electronically, not as an email, but as a proper resolution as an attachment, and signed electronically? So in a sense, the physical paper hasn't moved anywhere, but the document has been prepared as per format.
Yes, we can, but then again, subject to, in case that particular company has an audit, the auditors might insist on the documents to be physically signed. That is when you will need the documents to be in paper, physically signed by each director or shareholder and filed in the secretarial record. If the auditors does not have any particular problem with this electronically signed document, then it should be signed. But again, like I mentioned earlier, there will be certain restrictions on what documents can be accepted as electronically signed or physically signed. Now, when I'm talking about it, I would like to give you an idea. The share transfer form. Say, for example, we're just talking about, the investor, the co-founder. You want to just give away your shares and, just maintain the share capital. Now, that particular share transfer deed or the share transfer form that we're talking about, that has to be signed by all the parties mentioned in the document in the same page. And it has to be signed in original. You cannot sign it in signed by transferor in one page, transferring in another page. That will not constitute a valid document. So that is when, yes.
Well, you can finish.
No, that's fine.
All the filings that you do with ACRA
Yeah.
as a corporation, is there space in the ACRA's website where you can go in and go back to all the documentations that you have filed? So meaning that your documents, your corporate papers are documented and you can retrieve them when you need? Is that possible? Or you
No.
as a corporation, you physically, I mean usually in every other country you do have a file with a physical paper,
Yes.
forms,
Yes.
the corporate documentations. But I was just wondering what kind of paper trail that ACRA
Okay,
gives
paper trail.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I understand
Or
is,
electronic trail.
yes, what happens is whenever any return is filed with ACRA, if you have any documents which is uploaded with ACRA, when you say, for example, when I say uploaded, I have this return file, I'm attaching this document. So this document will also go into the ACRA records. On a future date, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, you want to retrieve this document along with the file that has been done, there is an option available with ACRA. But having said that, not all these documents are required to be filed with ACRA. Not all documents go to ACRA. Certain documents have to be maintained in the company with the secretarial person. So they will have a whole list of events that has happened over the years, what has happened, what has not happened. So that is where the documentation plays a role. Can I move? Late financial notice for annual filing. That happens. That happens most of the time whenever you don't have a company secretary to remind you with the important dates. So we have this one particular scenario. We have a single director, single shareholder, dormant company, financial year based on 12 months, financial year ending 31st December. Ideally, AGM should have been filed by 30th of June, being 6 months from the date of the financial year ending, and you file the ACRA within 30 days. And now it's already mid-August. What happens then? Because usually ACRA has this policy of sending reminders to the directors, to the local directors, saying that, you know what, your AGM is due. This is just a reminder for you to file your returns. Sometimes this paper just gets lost with all other mails. We will not be able to look into it. Then what happens? We end up compounding a monthly late filing fee because we've not met the deadline, and the company will lose the position of good standing. What I mentioned, what I'm trying to tell about the good standing is, when you go into the ACRA profile of the company, you have a small green tick and you might see a small red cross next to that company. So this green tick is nothing but the good standing. Good standing talks about the history of the company, saying the company is very good with filing all the returns on time. And the time that you miss your deadline is going to be a red cross. So that is when you lose your good standing position. But then again, you can get back your green cross after the red cross if you file your annual return on time the following year.
You pay your fine.
Yeah, you do. And your fine keeps compounding, it keeps growing with every month of delay that is being done with filing. And then what happens if you continue to ignore the filing, annual return filing for a couple of years? ACRA issues summons to the local directors. And summons, as in it's giving, again ACRA is giving you a chance to the local director, saying that you can please go ahead and file the annual return, but you'll have a hefty penalty of $700 per local director. So if a company has 5 local directors, your summon fee will be 700 into 5. And then, what happens if you ignore the summons? ACRA has the authority to even issue arrest warrants to the local directors. And And what happens then? The local director will, caught in the immigration office and they'll be like, you know what, we have an arrest warrant for you. And then the director will be like, what did I do? You just missed filing your returns on time. And how can a company secretary help you with all this? First of all, to avoid this scenario by letting you know about the important dates, ensuring that all the annual returns are filed on time. Inform ACRA.
Why only local directors are responsible?
Okay. The reason being ACRA is not able to catch hold of the foreign directors. And that is why they insist that they have one local director at all times. That is their scapegoat. I mean, I don't want to call it scapegoat, being very mean to them, but that is the only way they can actually ensure that they have one point of contact, at least in a company, one person, to take up this liability.
So what if the local director decides he wants to leave the country and be in Africa for the next 10 years? They're still not going to get it.
Yeah, then you will not be getting up. But if he's supposed to be going when the arrest warrant is already issued, then you will be stuck with that information.
But if the company is not active, they might as well just dissolve the company.
Yes, you can do that. But then again, we have a misconception on that. I have come across a lot of, queries saying that my company didn't do business for the past 2 years. Why do I have to file this return? Why am I getting this notice now? ACRA does not have any excuses for this. Irrespective of whether your company is active, doing business, not doing business, just do a simple annual return filing with ACRA. That's all that you need to do. And like I mentioned, what is this annual return? Why do they make such a big deal out of it? It's nothing but a document stating, these are my directors, these are my shareholders, this is my current shareholding structure, and that's about it. That's all I'm just saying, that there is no share transfers, this the same thing. So all I need you to do is just that. So when you don't do that, you have all of these repercussions that pile up. Yes.
Sorry. If the late filing is the secretary or let's say chartered secretary, are they exposed to liabilities?
No. Because again it depends. See, what happens is this late filing fee will be the liability of the company. Because what we need to understand over here is the company is an individual recognized by law. So anything that the company does wrong, it's not going to catch any person as such. It's going to first penalize the company. But how do they get the company to to be a part of that penalization? By penalizing its officers. The immediate officers are the directors.
Do the directors and the company have a claim against the secretary if they miss deadlines?
Yes. If you've been misadvised.
If you've been misadvised,
Or
yes.
not reminded. Either case.
Yes, but then what happens is, you cannot have a claim against it. You cannot claim your late filing of annual return with ACRA against the company secretary.
No, I mean you go to court with the legal system.
You can just go ahead and tell them that yes, because the company secretary has not reminded me, but having mentioned that has not reminded me or has not given me any idea that this was the fee. I mean, this was the deadline and I missed it because I was not aware of it. My company secretary did not advise me correctly. Then you can definitely take your actions against that particular secretary saying that they did not fulfill their duties as secretaries.
That would be a case of negligence.
Yes.
What are possible consequences as a result of that claim?
The only thing that can happen is that secretary will lose his job, yes. Then I think that will be the first thing that will happen. But also that they'll also be blacklisted. I mean, obviously they will not be, they'll have a black listed against their name, so they will not be going to them.
The company secretary that cannot be made responsible for the late filing penalty.
Yeah. Because the thing is, you cannot make the company secretary solely responsible for the fact that it is late filing. I understand that it is the duty of the company secretary to ensure that it is being done, but as directors, you also have the same liability to ensure that you don't, to make sure that all deadlines are met. So that's why, that is one of the reasons why I said that you cannot hold the company secretary solely responsible for any late filing deadline. Just to give you how the scenario would look like, we have a brief background. We have a newly incorporated company, which is, say, only 1 year old. We have two co-founders, Alex and Irene. And both these co-founders are also the directors and shareholders of the company. Now we have an institutional investor. When I'm talking about institutional investor, it's another company who's interested to invest into the company. So now and I'm just talking about around first round of funding to be 2,500, only to show you the ease of how it would look. I mean, obviously when an investor is coming and it's an institutional investor, they wouldn't invest 2,500. They would invest a bigger amount. But for me to help demonstrate how it would look, I'm just taking a very small figure here. This is what it will look like. We have Alex and Irene. They're both co-founders. They're also the directors. They have 50% shareholding, holding 5,000 and 5,000 shares each. So we have a total capital of 10,000. Now when I'm talking about the institutional investor coming in, we have a shareholding percent of 20%, 40% and 40%. We have additional shares of 2,500. If you notice in this scenario, there is no change in the number of shares from the previous shareholding. It's the same. But if you notice, there is a change in the percentage. So what happens is, whenever there is an allotment of shares, and if the existing shareholders decide that no, we don't want to take up any more shares, we are happy with whatever we have, their shareholding will reduce. The shareholding percentage will reduce because they are giving part of their rights to someone new. So that is when you have a 20% shareholding by the corporate shareholder. And if you notice over here, we have indicated that we have 2 directors over here. But in this case, we have 3 directors. So whenever you have a new company investing into your company, they will have certain requirements, they will have certain requests. Say for example, I'm investing so much into your company. You should make me the director of the company as well. So how do you do it? How will you be able to implement all of these changes? Okay, before I go to that, this is when a company secretary will be able to guide the existing shareholders as well as the new shareholder. What are the documents that needs to be filled in? How you're supposed to ensure that this particular expected shareholding and directorship is achieved. So, to start off, I would like to brief about the preemptive rights. Now, in this particular scenario where we have Alex and Irene, they are the shareholders. Let's assume that Irene is not aware that the new shareholder is coming in. It's only Alex who went and spoke and who did the marketing, and he went and told that, why don't you come in? Irene is aware that someone is there, but she doesn't have a full idea about it. Then what happens? She doesn't know how many shares are going. That this much of shares is being allotted to the new shareholder. Then what happens? That is when something called the preemptive rights come into picture. What is this preemptive rights? Preemptive rights are the rights to the existing shareholders. That is, Irene and Alex would have these rights. What is these rights? Whenever a new shareholder or whenever there is additional capital that is going to be got into the company, it is first offered to the existing shareholders. That means to say this 2,500 over here had to be first given to Alex and Irene. Only when Alex and Irene say, no, we don't want to take up this 2,500 of additional shares, you can go ahead and invite somebody else as in a third party. That is when you are allowed to go ahead and invest this 2,500 to the corporate shareholder. So as a company secretary, if I am supposed to effect these changes, I will help draft the necessary documents and all the other legal requirements that needs to be taken care of to meet this preemptive rights. We will help you with that and ensure that that particular shareholding is taken into place. Okay? We have something called the corporate. Yeah.
If the company's articles of incorporation or whatever says that the existing shareholders have their preemptive rights, does the secretary still have to go through and document the procedures which will prove that actually they went through the existing shareholders and gave them the option?
Yes. What happens is, because it's only to safeguard the interest of the existing shareholders. Because later on a future date, if this particular waiver from the existing shareholder is not given, then the existing shareholder can always debate, saying that how did you introduce another third party without me giving my consent? So it is a way of trying to inform the existing shareholders that yes, there's going to be someone new. So it's better that you are aware of it, and it would be best you can educate the shareholders only through this particular document.
Is an email sufficient?
Come here?
Is an email sufficient?
I'm sorry, didn't get that?
An email is that sufficient if I write you?
No. The reason being, electronically, you might have just sent it. You might have just given your part of saying that, you know what, boss, I'm just introducing someone, I'm getting it. But there is no return, there is no, how do I say, receipt from, I don't have any confirmation that the shareholder has said, yes, please go ahead.
Well, if the shareholder replies, you say, okay, go ahead.
And
The
the
shareholder,
shareholder
I don't think that would be documented for compliance purposes. It's a good practice. If you have an email communication, then it wouldn't harm to just have that documented in the required format, so that in future, especially when you have an audit, when an auditor comes in, he would ask for all of these documents, because he would say that you have this consent from the shareholder saying that yes, I waive my preemptive rights. So at this given point of time, email would not be an accepted means of waiver of preemptive rights.
So every time there is a dilution of shareholding.
Yeah.
So a document has to be signed.
Yes. Existing
All the
shareholders.
shareholders.
Saying that yes, I'm waiving my right. I'm saying that no, I don't want these shares, you can give it to somebody else. So as long as you have that, in future you're not going to be bothered by any other shareholder saying that, you know what, you didn't ask my consent, how can you allot shares, how can you do this? And it might be a little bit of an uncomfortable situation in the future. So it's the best thing to do to get the waiver of preemptive rights.
So everybody who is a shareholder has a preemptive right by default? Or
Yes, by default.
So even if it's a
This is
very
only
small amount of shareholding, 1%, 2%, then also we have the preemptive rights that
Yes.
every time there is a dilution, we
Yes.
have to consent.
Yes.
Okay. So in the M&A, in the memorandum of articles, you cannot mention that to have preemptive rights, you need to have minimum this much amount of shareholding.
No. Because no, like I mentioned, you can have any kind of terms and conditions in your M&A, but if it is not in line with what is regulated as per the Companies Act, then it is not valid. What is allowed in the Companies Act or what is allowed in the company's provision is what will apply.
So how do you say, for example, you have 10 shareholders?
Yeah.
And then one of the shareholders says, no, I do not want to bring in any more investor because my shareholding is going to be diluted.
Yes.
So how do you affect that? So
Okay.
even if he has just 2% of shareholding, still he says, no, I don't want.
True. I personally have had these situations where, the very small shareholding might just come back saying that, you know what, I'm not interested. I don't want to give it up. So what do? The best thing is, I'll ask him, are you willing to take it up? If he's not willing to take it up, then there will usually be a clause in your memorandum and articles stating that in case you're not willing to take up the shares, then you can very well sell it back to the company. I will take care of the rest.